Hi everyone, this video is about how you can get Gyro working on emulators such as Switch emulators, Yuzu, Ryujinx on a Bazzite OS device. So for example, here I have the GPD WIN4 and it's running Bazzite, as you can see here. I have the latest Bazzite installed. I'll drop a link by a YouTuber called Aru who's done extensive installation documentation. Basically, it's a video on how you can install Bazzite and dual boot Bazzite on your GPD WIN4. And I followed that exact process to install everything. It was super smooth and I loved the video. But I could not figure out how to get emulator Gyro working. And there's not much documentation anywhere else except one Reddit post which wasn't super helpful. So you can see here I can use Gyro to aim in the game, and this works across all games. I'm using Yuzu here, but it's the same for Ryujinx. There's no other difference. To get started, you have to follow the entire process. You have to follow the entire process in Aru's video so that you have Bazzite setup, you have handheld daemon setup, which means you'll get this. And you go to the bottom here, you'll have a handheld daemon and you can choose control emulation. Now, what you have to do is when you're in game mode, I'm just going to quit this for now. Okay, so when you're in game mode, you have to select control emulation as DualSense and the extra buttons as touchpad clicks or keyboard overlay. Do not select Steam Input Edge, because if you do that, it will detect the device as a DualSense Edge controller instead of a DualSense controller. So once you've selected DualSense and control emulation and touchpad clicks, you can go down and you enable motion support. This should be on by default. After that's done, just go into settings, controller, and you can see when you open calibration, Gyro is working. And on top, it'll also say DualSense wireless controller instead of DualSense Edge wireless controller. Now, the main thing you need to know here is when you open Gyro, you see these tiny icons. They will move based on how you move your device. Now, by default, these were wrong in my device. I had to use something called override. So when you go down here, there's a motion axis override, and it turned out that the x-axis was actually z, the y-axis was x, and the z-axis was y. So I had to set this up, like I had to switch these three so that these icons moved according to how I moved the device. So this is something you might need to do as well. If it's different, just do some trial and error and you will figure it out. Once you've set up Gyro and you've set it up as DualSense controller, you can go into desktop mode and open either Yuzu or Ryujinx. So here I'm going to select, Ryujinx is right here, but let me see if I can get Yuzu. So I have Yuzu here. You can open Yuzu and you can set up your games, or you can set up your prod keys, etc. In configure, just go to controls, select DualSense controller here, and then motion, configure, and just press OK. That's it. Now once this is done, you have to add Yuzu to Steam. The easiest way to do this is by just right-clicking it in GPD, you just press and hold and press add to Steam. So add to Steam right here. Now Yuzu is added to Steam, but by default, Steam will use Steam input, which means the controller is being emulated as a DualSense controller. Now that input would go through Steam and then go to the game that you're playing. In this case, it's the emulator. You have to prevent that. You have to cut off the Steam input. So to do that, you open Steam, go to big picture mode. So now you're on Steam big picture. Yuzu is right here. This controller icon. And then by default, it will be enabled. You have to click this settings icon and select disable Steam input. So once Steam input is disabled, the controller directly speaks to the emulator and there's no middleman. Steam is not a middleman anymore, which converts gyro input to something else. So once that is done, once again, open Yuzu directly from Steam this time. It's not much difference. Go to configure again. This time, the difference you'll see is, before when you click this, there will be an option called Steam Virtual Pad 0. But this time, there's just DualSense controller. There's nothing else. There's keyboard and then DualSense controller. The Steam Virtual Pad is gone. Now select DualSense controller, select motion, press configure, just press OK. You don't need to do anything here. And you can just open your game. In this case, I'm again opening Breath of the Wild. This is going to take some time to boot up, so I will boot up as in basically I have to reach the game. So, oh, it's not too slow. Never mind. One cool thing about emulators is that you can increase the speed of the game. So I usually set it as 120% because I find the default Nintendo games a bit slow. So now I have the stick, and if I try aiming, you can see it's working perfectly fine. Now once you have configured gyro properly in desktop mode, you can quit the app and go back to gaming mode. And although I'm using Yuzu, it's the same exact setup in Eurojinx. You just have to click motion and then press OK. There's nothing else to do. So now you have Yuzu here, opening the game in game mode this time. Once again, Breath of the Wild. And you're back in the game, and you can see again I have gyro working for aiming. So yeah, that's pretty much all you have to do to get gyro working on Linux. Now this works on GPD WIN4 perfectly fine. I tried this same process on my 1X player, and for some reason I couldn't get the Steam input working. Like whenever I select DualSense and enable motion support, it just completely stops working. But on GPD, it works perfectly fine. Let me know if it works for you or if I have any questions. Cheers.